Ageless Energy Radio. How to feel 22 at any age. Would you like to feel young and vibrant regardless of your age? Never have to call in sick again. Be laser focused and productive all day long. Stop feeling stressed out by your life. Stay calm and confident no matter what. Go to bed feeling peaceful and wake up energized? Ageless Energy is healing your self-generating energy systems through the renewal of your body, mind, and spirit for complete wellness without artificial stimulants or medication. Would you listen? Anyone who wants to feel young, ageless, and productive, regardless of their years. Join your host, Dr. Chandler George, as we explore your mind, body, spirit to feel 22 at any age.
Hey everyone, welcome to Ageless Energy, how to heal your self-generating energy systems through the renewal of your body, mind, and spirit. This is your host, Dr. Chandler George, and today we have my longtime friend, not that she is older than 30, but she's my longtime friend of probably 30 years, Shirley Vazquez, all the way from the Chicago, greater Illinois area. Does that sound right?
That's about right. 2 hours due west of Chicago.
2 hours due west of Chicago, but every time I meet her up there, it's in Chicago. So
Yes.
never been to the other neat places. I have to go. Now, and Shirley's also an ordained minister up there in the last several years. So Shirley, tell me about your process of going from being a top salesperson flying all over the country in healthcare and in the doctor landscape, you know, a little bit of background with your incredible children who also happen to be kind of famous, and then you landing up to being an ordained minister from Catholicism to where you are now is quite a story. And to me, that reflects kind of the mind, body, spirit. So I'm going to give you the floor and we'll just kind of see where it goes. Sound good?
Oh, sounds like a plan. So yes, many moons ago when I was a younger person, spent a lot of time on the road traveling, teaching, doctors, public relations, managing practice, that kind of thing. I've always had a teacher spirit in me. Even when I was a little girl, it seemed like I was always telling the adults a better way to do things. I don't know that it was always appreciated, but I've always had that teacher spirit in me. I have a master's in psychology and also a master's in theology. And so recently, how those two are married together is that I teach quite a bit in the secular world, but also in the body of Christ. And having the opportunity to be able to help people figure out how to live their best lives and using the Bible as the foundation and then psychological principles, helping them to figure out a better way to do things is really what my mission has been the last several years and what my mission will continue to be until I leave this fabulous place called Earth. So I teach in my church. I put conferences on. I recently started part of my ministry. It's called the Brick House. And the Brick House is a place to go to use the bricks that you've been thrown while discovering a few of your own to be able to build your life. And so we've all had bricks thrown at us in our lifetime, maybe our environment growing up, maybe some genetics experiences that we may have had. And oftentimes we don't know how to build a life with some of those things. And on top of that, we don't understand what our own gifts and talents are. And so the Brick House allows people to take what they've been given, use it positively, and then discover some of their own gifts and talents to really help them to live a full life.
I love it. And since you just brought it up, is there an email or a link to the Brick House? So if people want to donate or give to it or know more about it, Shirley?
We are just getting things up and running, and so I will have that information for you. Our email is godsfavoredministries@gmail.com, so that's pretty easy. We do have a Facebook page, also God's Favored Ministries, and we are currently working on our website.
So Shirley and I go so far back, we've had many, many lives. I mean, Shirley's somebody who's done speaking and everything. We've done it together, and we've done a lot of different things. So she's got multifaceted, talents here. And it's interesting because we met in the healthcare world, primarily the chiropractic world, years ago. But we both have kind of come now with this Ageless Energy and her favored ministries, God's favorite ministries and everything, to basically a full body circle of mind, body, spirit, to where we kind of are more pastors, preachers, teachers, lovers of God, and want other people to know the pathway to God through his salvation. And that's kind of really what this podcast is about, helping everyone find their own path to that. And of course, Shirley has also done this at a large level. And so here we are back around again. It seems like every few years doing stuff together, working stuff together, because our lives kind of tend to go that same direction, don't they?
Yes, absolutely. That's the teacher in both of us.
I think that's God's Spirit pulling us too, don't you? Or, I mean, because you and I were also good in the other world too. The more secular world.
And that's absolutely the truth. And the teacher is one of the gifts in the ministry. And so when you're a teacher, you're teaching anywhere you go. You're teaching anywhere you go. Whatever it is that God's given you to tell somebody else to help them live a better life, you're teaching everywhere you go. Yeah,
and it can be in many different realms, like you said. You're mentioning the many different realms, physical or whatever it is, and of course, mind, body, spirit is very general. But getting people to think right. So, what are some of the things you do to help people? And I know you do a lot of this, but you said you had a master in psychology, but to think right, think different about themselves. Some of those young kids I've seen you mentor over the years in the greater Chicago area. What are some of the best tips that you've done or seen that work to help people overcome some mental challenges as to their self-worth and things like that?
Well, understanding their thinking processes, that's really what it is. Oftentimes we grow up in some form of a bubble. It might be a good bubble. It might not be such a good bubble. But our thinking processes are sometimes skewed. We may think we know what the truth is in our life, but when somebody helps us kind of dig down into it, we realize that maybe some things that we thought were the truth were not actually the truth. I teach people to always be open to learning new things and new ways of thinking, to be careful of our thinking patterns. Oftentimes we think that we have problems in our life. The truth is what we have are patterns that we've developed over our lifetime that have caused the problems. So looking at things, relationally, you may have an individual that jumps in and out of relationships, romantic relationships, consistently jumping in and out. And when you look at the folks that they've been in a relationship with, you'll see that they're the same type of an individual. Yeah. And when you start rolling back the problems that might have come with those relationships, you see that the individual person has had certain patterns in their life that they haven't recognized or addressed. And when you can straighten out the patterns in somebody's life, help them to see them for what they are, then normally they'll start making better choices.
So what's an example of ways you're able, to peel it back and show them that, hey, you're in a habitual cycle here. So not only do we need to break it, but we need to go this direction, but do it in such a loving way that they don't fight it.
Well, there are so many ways. Let's look at something very simple that most of us are familiar with. Comfort eating. We many times eat to comfort ourselves, and we're not eating the right things. And when you get someone to understand why they're making the choices in what they're eating, then they can understand and how to fix those things psychologically that are causing them to feel empty, mostly empty, emotionally unfulfilled, and getting them to see where they can be making better choices at. Habits are so big. It doesn't matter what kind of a habit it is. Our brains get into, as you know, a certain way of functioning. Until we start questioning that, until we start shaking up, we can't get out of the habits that we've had that have gotten us to the places in our life where we've been. I've often said that routine is a killer. We get into these routines of things, and while we want routine in our day-to-day, for sure, we want to make sure we're eating right every day. We want to go to bed the same time every night, get up the same time every day. We want to make sure that we're working out. Within those routines that are good, we want to make sure that we're shaking things up. And so looking at our physical attributes again, we don't want to be doing the same workout every single day, because then there are going to be muscles that we're not using. And so we want to make sure that we're always shaking things up.
Well, I've always heard, and this is what you're saying, you're saying it back, that there's basically 6 core needs that the humans have to have, and 2 are of the spiritual gifts in nature, and then 4 are the others. And you don't have to have all of them to have a full, complete life, but we all must have at least 2 to feel satisfied. And whether you're in marketing or pastoring to folks, they can have these. And so one would be like certainty in their life, which you said, that'd be routine. But also uncertainty was number 2, uncertainty and variety, some a little excitement, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, and the significance, and I'll just do the 4, significance, we're all chasing significance. How come is someone happy with the Walmart backpack, but, somebody else has the $2,500 Louis Vuitton backpack, they're obviously trying to buy significance for somebody, which is themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some significant, or Mercedes-Benz or anything like that. It doesn't have to be those things. They could be anything. And then, of course, number 4, one of the big ones, I think, that big one for me is connection and love. Love. I want Shirley to like me. I want connection. I want love. And so out of those 4, with all the ministering you've done to people over the years, Shirley, in many different fields, which 2 do you think are the most common?
Well, let me say this. I think that love, everybody wants to be loved, like you said. This is the thing that makes, games so appealing to young people, is that it makes them feel like they have a home and that they belong. And, we all want to have that feeling of being known. But the thing that I impress upon people is the uncertainty part, and the value of that. If you never allow yourself to get into deep water, you'll never know how tall you actually are. And so I tell people, allow yourself to get into situations where you have to think on your feet, where you have to dig in an instant. You have to dig down and figure out. As an example, oftentimes I will go to a visiting church. I'm in a visit. And all of a sudden, the next thing I hear is, and we have Reverend Shirley Vazquez in the house from Chicago. Reverend Vazquez, would you like to come up and address the congregation? Well, I hadn't planned on it. I had planned to just be a sheep on that Sunday morning in the service. But certainly, of course, I'll come up, and by the grace of God, he always gives me a word for the congregation. But at the same time, I've had to learn to allow myself to be put into situations where I'm very uncomfortable. This is how we create, brain plasticity, that we're building new neural pathways and we're challenging ourselves consistently. And I think that's one of the most important things to Ageless Energy, is to consistently be challenging our minds, our bodies, and our spirits. I have a mantra that I say to myself, and it's not fancy, it's not scholarly, but basically it says, I'm not going down like that. And so I'm not going down like that. And so if I have an ailment in my body, let's say last year I was having some acid reflux issues. The doctors wanted to put me on medication, but I knew the cause. The cause was very specific: coffee and Italian food. And I thought to myself, I am not going on a medication every single day to control something I can prevent. I'm not going down like that. A medication that they now say, these medications like Dexalon and Prevacid cause long-term kidney damage as you age. And I thought, I'm not going down like that. Let me get off the coffee, which wasn't pleasant. Let me stop, which, it certainly wasn't pleasant, but I did it. I challenged myself and I did it. And let me stop with the pizza here, and let me get this thing under control. And that's how that's why I said to the doctor, I'm not going down like that. Last year I had some issues with plantar fasciitis, which is very painful, bottom of your feet hurting. You're not wanting to work out. You don't want to walk. You don't want to run. You don't want to do anything. And of course, their first piece of advice to me was, well, you need to get some shots in your feet. And I'm thinking, no, I need to figure out what's causing the plantar fasciitis and fix it.
It's those Manolios, Shirley. It's those Manolios. You got to give them away.
Look, I mean, plantar fasciitis. Here's. I'm sorry. Now you've got me preaching. You see, this is what happens when you invite a preacher to come on your show.
Sister. Amen, sister.
So plantar fasciitis. Okay, well, let me learn some stretching. Let me change up my shoes. Let me figure out what's causing it. What makes it worse? What makes it better? Figured out, and now 6 months later, I have very little problems. Never had to have the shots, of course, and very little problems with my feet. Now, so I'm a big believer in, when you see some little thing in your body is going wrong, fix it right away. Because someone with the plantar fasciitis, they may, without education, may have went and got the shots. Maybe they worked, maybe they didn't work, but now they've stopped working out. Now because they've stopped working out because their feet hurt, now they're gaining weight. Now they've got visceral fat starting around their abdomen. Now they're starting to have heart problems because they've gained all this weight. You see, we have to go back to every little thing. When we feel it, be sensitive to our body. Our bodies are a temple. Be sensitive to what's going on. And when you see something, feel something that's not right, fix it immediately as much as you possibly can.
It goes back to that old saying that we've heard people say, little hinges swing big doors. So the little things in your life do matter, because if you don't take care of them now, you're going to have big problems.
That's exactly right. And then, when it comes to eating, when it comes to food, as we're talking about the body here, I believe in using food as a medicine. So when I eat or drink something, I ask myself, what am I treating with this? When I eat carrots, I'm hopefully treating my eyes better. When I'm eating avocado, I'm hopefully treating my brain better. If I'm eating something I shouldn't eat, like a bunch of sugary stuff that I certainly love but don't eat much of anymore, I say to myself, what am I causing to happen with this? If I eat this piece of cake, what could I possibly be causing to happen? Well, I'm probably going to grow my midsection. Not something I really want to do,
Yeah, it's okay to grow your portfolio, but not your midsection. Yeah, that's right.
Not my midsection.
That's what you're going to grow. So, all right, so we got the mind and the body, and of course, I think everyone needs the big why, the big reason why. And you're a strong-willed, spirited person and woman, but a lot of people aren't. And I'm assuming you have to help coach them into understanding the spirit and their bigger why to eat right and do these things. Because at the end of the day, for them, it's about helping their sister or their brother or serving others somehow in their own way, even in the gangs, to a better life and taking care of it. And they can't do it if they got plantar fasciitis and can't walk, or they're eating too much pizza and they can't walk because they're too obese. So what are some of the things that you do to lead people down the path of, hey, there's a bigger why out here. Let me help you find what your bigger why is.
Well, one of the things that I talk to them about, and this will lead into the spirit part of this, is I talk to people and I say, what did you think about when you were a little boy or a little girl? What are the things that you dreamed about? Who did you hope that you were going to become? And did you become that person? And most people, when they sit back and they think about who they were when they were a little child, and when they looked at their still unfolding life, their hopes and dreams, most people will say, I did not become the person I hoped I would be. But most of us have that gift inside of us that, God put inside of us, and he calls it out of us at certain times. But we have the option, the choice to either walk in that gift or to not walk in the gift. But when you roll back and think about things when you were a little boy or a little girl, things that you could get lost in doing for hours, that's normally where your gifts are going to sit down at. So for me, when I was a little girl, I can remember God talking to me. And as you said earlier, I grew up in the Catholic Church. I left that church 20-some years ago because I knew that my gifts were never going to be able to come into fruition there. When I was little, I would look at the priests and I would think to myself, I want to do that. I don't want to do the nuns because I want to get married and have children. I want to do what the priests are doing, but of course that wouldn't have been allowed in the Catholic Church. So even when I was a little girl, I was always fighting to try to get to church on a Sunday morning and wanting to be there and wanting to run up to the front of the church and sit in the front rows. And I'd be so disappointed because the nuns would be sitting up there taking up all the front rows. And then like I said earlier, always telling people a better way to do things. So when I roll that back and say, what is my bigger why? My bigger why for me is to teach people. Teach people a better way, teach people about God. How do I keep myself filled up? Well, if I'm a teacher, I have to be in a constant state of learning. So I'm in devotion every morning. I'm in prayer every morning. I'm reading every morning. I read every afternoon. I have volumes and volumes and volumes of books on so many different topics that I've read. To try to help, because you never know what someone's going through and what kind of a situation they're going to be in and what piece of information that you read obscurely that's going to help this individual. And
well, that's right. And you're only as good as the books you read and the people you meet. So by reading all those books, you're ready when the moment arises. And when God puts that moment in front of you, hopefully you're ready.
Yes, and somebody great, it might have been Zig Zigler, I forget who it was, that said, leaders are readers. And I think that's right. Very true. You can't lead people unless you have information. And then speaking to that information, whether it's mind, body, or spirit, I think often to tell people, now this is a very simplified version of the second law of thermodynamics, so any scientists, please don't beat me up, but this is a simplified version. We have open system and closed systems that are talked about in that law. Closed system has a certain amount of energy and information. And after a while, without new energy or information being allowed in, that system becomes chaotic and atrophies. Okay? Same way with us, with our mind, our body, and our spirit. An open system has information and energy in it, but it has a gateway that allows new information and new energy in so that it can stay healthy and possibly even grow. And so I tell people, let's look at science. People think that science and religion are opposed. I say that science proves every day that God exists. You can't look at nature. You can't look at the human body and not wonder there has to be somebody greater. There has to be some bigger thing out there that has figured this entire thing out. For me, the more I learn about science, the more I realize that God has to exist. And so I love science. And I often talk to people in scientific terms to get them to understand things of God.
Very good.
Amen.
Oh, that's hey, man. Very good. Who knew a preacher could preach in 20 minutes or less? But guess what, guys? They can.
Hey, God is good, and He knows our time. He knows us. He's interested in the little things, even time management.
Absolutely, He is, because He knows time matters to get things done, and it's in His time, not ours. And so many times it's much faster than we're ready for, and it just happens. And I want everyone to know about, too, October 21st, we're having our first Ageless Energy event for 2 days here in Dallas, Fort Worth. Shirley's invited. She just doesn't know it yet. If I can get her down here, I'll have her speak too. And this is the first time I've even mentioned it on the podcast, but it's actually an Ageless Energy event of mind, body, spirit. And it's actually for free. All people have to do is subscribe to our podcast and leave an honest review somehow. And there you go. Screenshot it, and that's your admission. And so,
hey,
for our June 9th event, and we have one June 9th too, and that's more doctors and businesses, but that's all they got to do as well. And so, and how you do that is you can go to Ageless Energy, tap on the little icon, and then it'll give you a chance to leave some stars or reviews as well as listen to the podcast. You can also go to chandlergeorge.com/ageless-energy-podcasts. And there you can actually click on my coloring book. I have an Ageless Energy coloring book for peace and mind of the mountains. And you can click on that. You'll see it right there. And it will take you where you can leave your name and email, and then we'll send you the 2 free tickets to either one of those dates, either June 9th coming up 2017 here in Dallas, or in October. And then you can come as our guest and be a part of what I hope to be a worldwide movement with people like Shirley Vazquez. So I'd like everybody to do that.
Exciting.
So Shirley didn't even know all this. So what's the parting words here, Shirley?
Parting words, there again where I started, routine is a killer. Yes, we have to have our routines during the day, but for God's sakes, get in there and shake yourself up a little bit. There was a study that came out recently about older people. They were in their 80s and 90s, and one of them was a yoga teacher. She teaches yoga 6 days a week, and that's what she said. You have to shake things up. Always put your body on high alert and don't get into routines. And we know it's true because oftentimes after someone retires from a job that they might have had for 30 years, in a few years they've passed away. And they didn't continue to shake themselves up and do things different within those 30 years, and their body got into a state, and it just continued to decline. And so shake yourself up every day. Challenge yourself to something new, and, see what you're made of. When you challenge yourself, you really figure out what you are made of and what you're capable of. And so those would be my parting words.
Well, and I think you speak perfectly there as we wrap up to what Ageless Energy is. Ageless Energy, how to feel 22 at any age. How do we feel 22 at any age? And that's when we capture that moment, capture the serendipitous of the moment, capture moving to a new place or changing the routines, but in a safe and calculated and hopefully non-risky way to be our better self. And that gives us excitement in life. And for a while, we feel like time stands still. Like when you and I would sit and talk for hours on end about different things, time stands still. And that's an Ageless Energy moment, or maybe it's hours, but moment. Or the workout, or when you're speaking from the pulpit, or when you're helping somebody and you see that smile on their face that you didn't expect, that's Ageless Energy. When you have the freedom of finances that you can give when needed, or when you can not have to work so that you can open up your home for people that need different things and share with young people. I didn't have children, so that's kind of a big thing for me. So I lived through Shirley and her kids. I like to think, hey, they're part mine. She just doesn't know it.
Uncle Chandler.
Because I couldn't have raised good kids like that. She's got perfect kids. So, but that to me is all Ageless Energy. We all have different definitions, but it all falls under that. It's that magical moment where it's like, man, isn't it good to be alive? Can't think of it.
Yes. I say if Moses could go to 120, I'm going to 120.
There you are. And going to 120 with a full quality of life, right?
Well, the word said his eye was not dim, his vigor was not abated. I say, that's me, Lord. Count me in.
You count me in, too. Hey, Shirley, I sure appreciate you being with us today. And as we go along, I'm going to have you back on the show and be sure and send me more information with your Brick House Ministry so that we can share it with everyone. And everyone, you're going to want to know more about Shirley Vazquez, my good friend in Chicago. We can't let Illinois have all the fun. We need to get her down here more in the Texas area. So help me to do that, and I'm sure she'll come. So thank you
bet.
again.
Of course I'll come. All right. Thank you. And thank you everyone for listening. Have a good day. God bless.